Hi, this is Lisa, and this is video number 4 in how to knit. And I've got a knitting needle. I've got some worsted weight yarn. This is just leftover yarn from a project. And I'm going to show you how to do the E-cast on. I'm going to show you how to do stockinette stitch and how to do purl stitch. Okay, so we'll start out like we would before, only this time we're only going to leave a little short end. We don't need that. So, to cast on in an E-cast, you're going to hold the yarn similarly that we did the two-tail cast, except, as you can see, basically we're only wrapping it. And if you're doing this, you need to make sure that it's plenty loose too. So, I'm just going to cast on a few It's called an E-cast on. And since I'm only going to show you how to do some turning, not like I need a ton of stitches on here. Like I said, I think that you will appreciate learning that the long tail cast on. You will find it much, much easier to operate with than this E-cast on. Although some patterns want this when you're like increasing, you have a certain number of stitches and then you need to increase. Well, you don't have a long end, so you have no choice but to do this. I'm going to do just a couple more. And then, like I said, since we're really looking at technique, it doesn't matter. I can turn a bunch of times. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around so that I'm ready to knit. And the first thing I'm going to, the knitting at this point is identical. The challenge is that this E cast on is just a little harder to work with. It's a little easier to drop. So I'm going to knit the first row, which you've already learned how to do. And I don't have a lot of stitches here, so this should not take me very long to do. The challenge is that those loops and the E-cast on vary in size. And see how I've got that bump in there? You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the end, how the edge just doesn't look as pretty. Okay. First row is always the hardest, you guys. Once you get your first row knitted and we're ready to turn, you're going to get this. See how much trouble I'm having getting that needle through and keeping tabs of where my yarn is. This will get much easier as soon as we finish the first row, I promise. Okay. I should have just been able to snap my fingers and have that first row done for you. My bad. But if you can see that I find it a little challenging to do this from an E-cast on, you'll understand why subsequent rows will be much easier. Okay. And I'm going to do the slip last stitch because I like that look. And I pulled a little tight, and there's our first row. So, yes, Victorine, we're going to just turn it around. Now, for what's called the garter stitch, all you do is you keep knitting. So we've already got a slip stitched on there. That's fine. So we're going to stick it into that hole again, and again we're going to just repeat the process. Okay. And this looks just like what we've been doing. Each row will give you a little more to hang on to, which is why I said once you get through that first row, this gets a lot easier. Okay. In, wrap, over, off. In, wrap. Whoops, went in the wrong hole. Just gotta have it in the right spot. There we go. Da, 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 da. It's hard for me to keep this in frame, sorry. Okay, and now we've got one stitch, so we're just going to slip it. Slip last stitch, and ta-da! We have 2 rows. I'm going to do one more. So turn it around. And you can kind of see where my yarn is, since I slipped that last stitch, it's kind of coming out in a weird spot. That's okay. I'm going to untangle. There we go. All right. Obviously, if you have flat needles, you're just switching hands. So we flipped again. And now that you're starting to get a little bit of a actual fabric, it's going to give you something to hang on to kind of pull down to create that opening where you want to stick your knitting needle to pick up your stitches. This is not as easy to do with the camera propped here as it could be. I want you to have a nice close-up of my hands. Okay. See how much faster this is going now? And this is all knitting right now. All I'm doing is knit, 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 knit. Every row is knit. And what that does is it gives you a texture. You can see there are bumps on this side, and you can see that there are also bumps on this side, which means this is a nice stitch if you're working on a scarf or a blanket or something that you want to not have a right and a wrong side. Then garter stitch is a great way to do that. The Doctor Who scarves are exclusively done that way. And I've got a little bit of one that I'm working on. So I'm going to bring that over here to show you. And again, this is stocking or a garter stitch, and you can see all the ribs. It does have a right and a wrong side if you were looking at stripes, because on the back of these, you're going to have these ridges where you have two colors, and that's, as long as you're consistent, that's the way the actual pattern reads for Doctor Who. And I want to get the nice edge. This is that slip last stitch. See how nice and neat that edge looks? And it still has plenty of stretch to it, but it's just a real nice even look if you do the slip last stitch, unless we're getting into pattern work, and then we'll deal with that. Okay, so right now in this video you have learned how to do garter stitch knitting, which is just knit every row. I'm going to do a second video where I'm going to use this exact same piece here, and I'm going to show you stockinette knitting, and that'll be the next video. Thanks for spending 11 minutes with me.